talk about this, and hopefully we get something from it. And for me, how I grew up is looking at very powerful, strong women from my culture and beliefs. And I feel like beliefs, if you've ever been there, like you see guys hanging out in the street, they just, sip on, liquor all day and they're just chilling. So it's a different lifestyle, right? And the women there are like the matriarchs of all the families, right? So seeing that in beliefs allowed me to see that community is super important. Family is super important. And what I tried to do throughout my career is try to bridge the gap between what I saw growing up and what I saw in the tech world, right? So I just want to ask a question, like how many people in here feel like they want to be designers because they want to feel creative? Like I just want to see a raise your hand. Okay. And like how many folks are already designers? Got you. How many people are looking for design jobs? All right. Then I'm guessing that some people are just interested in it. They're just trying to learn more. Got you. Okay. All right. So when you work at a company or you're going after a job, I feel like a lot of folks think that you're going to be a designer to make an amazing mock-up. But the reality is that when you are working in a company setting and you're doing your job, product managers may not understand what you do, developers don't understand what you do, executives don't understand what you do. So really what you do is you're leading people toward a vision, right? There's something that comes with that sort of territory, right? There's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of misalignment amongst teams. If you've ever been to school and they're teaching about this diamond, double diamond methodology, I will tell you that it doesn't work. Don't pay attention to that. You'll get pressure from team members, and it's really like, to me, it's like a reflection of life. Like there's all these ebbs and flows, and it's very messy, and nobody knows what they're doing, and people feel lost, right? People are projecting their insecurities onto you, and you're meeting them at a certain point in their life, right? And I think going to therapy was one of the best classes that I've ever taken for, being a designer, right? Because it's super tough, and I feel like that's why we get paid so damn much, because it's like you're being an athlete, but you're training your mind to think a certain way. So really, I feel like how you lead people toward a vision when you're doing design work is through developing some sort of narrative. And this is the world's narrative. And you might have adopted this and internalized it, right? There's AI that's blown up, and people are scared of losing their jobs. But at the same time, a lot of folks are looking internally and trying to discover who they truly are, right? We got new COVID stuff going on all the time. There's always something, some new virus that's popping up, right? There's wars going on, there's recessions going on. So there's all these things that make you feel a certain way, or make you perceive your own narrative in a particular way. But what I would want to ask you after tonight is what's your narrative? What do you feel about yourself? What do you think about yourself up to this point in your life and your career? And just to give you some sort of inclination or get your mind going. Like I said, I was raised by very strong, powerful women. This is my mother, this is my grandmother. This is me when I was 4 years old, wearing an outfit. I still remember this day, she put me in an outfit that I hated. It was like Winnie the Pooh, and I walked into class and everybody was making fun of me, right? But that, when I think back to that moment, I was wearing a Winnie the Pooh outfit, and the overalls, that whole fit was super creative, right? So all these things in my story, it just gives me inspiration, and it gives me affirmation about the path that I've taken. And these are my friends, this is my family, and through being a designer, I've traveled the world about property, and I'm teaching my family and my community things that they've never known, right? And this is more at least to me, it's more fulfilling than any project I've worked on. Right, so growing up, I saw guys like you see on the left in the street. I grew up in South LA, and I saw these men selling oranges by the side of the freeway. And I always thought to myself, like, yo, these guys don't know, you know, what it's like to be rich, but they know what it's like to be humble. They're supporting their families in other countries, and their work ethic is something that I always admire, right? But they're so humble when you approach them. And I'm like, I want to carry that sort of swagger in my career, right? While also having a mindset of a therapist, because that's something that I did for so many years. I went to therapy for so many years. So why does any of this matter? You might be like, yo, this is not what I came to hear about, right? I thought I was going to learn about my career. Well, this is like, you know, some of the insider sort of conversations that I've had when people are going through interview processes, right? So yes, oftentimes people don't get the job because they don't have enough experience. But outside of that, it's because they don't understand their own narratives. Right? This is just the real, like I'm telling you, like the realest thing. I've interviewed at Facebook, I've interviewed at Google. I know folks in these companies who are executives, but they feel like, you know, the designer who gets the job was somebody who they could connect with, right? And, you know, like if there are 10 designers going after the same role and there were like 100 designers who started out going after the job, the 10 designers may all have the right technical skills, but the designer who gets the job is probably the one who fits into the culture the most, right? And it boils down to perception at that point, right? So if I ask you guys, I'm just gonna go through some, you know, weird, crazy exercises with you. But if I ask you, in 2023, where were these people going? Could anybody take a wild guess? Work? You want work? Photo shoot, okay. Fashion week, okay.
A concert.
Which concert?
Beyonce.
Okay. You said Beyonce. Okay. Well, how do you know they want to a Beyonce concert?
Style.
Style, okay.
Silver.
All right, it's the silver. All right, well, I'll give you a couple more. Where are these folks going?
Taylor Swift.
Like, what is it about? Sure.
The short, yeah.
All right. I got one more. All right, so what about this guy? Where's he going?
Church.
Church. Okay, yeah, that's my favorite pastor, Pastor Jose. But the reason I bring this up is because, like, I'm trying to make a point here that, you know, there's a certain way that people carry themselves to fit into a particular narrative, right? This guy would probably not look like he fits in at a Beyonce or Taylor Swift concert, right? So that's the same mentality that I have when you're applying to a company. Like, how do you fit into their story? If you're trying to make bread, if you're trying to make money, like, you got to understand it. And, you know, this is the U.S. economy, like, you know, S&P 500. It goes up and it goes down. Right in 2008, like, I'm sure if you guys were alive, you were a part of that last recession, right? In 2023, it's the same thing. So people are always complaining, oh, it's the recession, it's, you know, not the right time, right? But, you know, I read a book recently, and it mentioned that Oprah and Steve Jobs are the best salespeople that have ever lived, right? They were billionaires, right? And I've never seen Oprah code. Never seen Steve Jobs code. I've never seen, like, I don't even know if Steve Jobs had technical skills, right? But the point that I'm trying to make is that they had a vision, and they had, you know, certain values that they upheld, and that's what made them, you know, who they were, but it's how they built their wealth. So, you know, if you look on YouTube, the narrative is that if you learn Figma, you're gonna have the skills, right? But if you look at 100 designers who know Figma, that's not like what gets you into a company. So the truth is, at least from what I've seen on the inside, is that you get paid for your perspective and your point of view. And you also earn respect from your point of view. If you don't have a point of view, then people will just like knock you over and not respect your design decisions. And you won't ever get a seat at the table. So what can happen when you don't embrace your narrative? Well, I'm just going to show you based on what I've seen. All right, so you might feel like you got to people please to fit in a particular culture. And what that leads to is burnout. And I experienced this myself when I worked at Salesforce, because I went from working at a medium-sized company, from very small agencies, to a large company, and I was like, what the hell? Like, I feel like a circle fitting into a square hole. And I saw many of my colleagues go through this sort of experience as well. And what I think that also leads to is feeling like you need to fit into a toxic culture, right? And what that kind of spirals into is loneliness, feeling siloed. This is something that many designers complain about, and then you feel lost, like many folks went through last year. I would go on LinkedIn, at random times throughout the year, just because that's where I was working, and I would see so many posts from designers who were living, they went from like feeling like they were high in life to living in their cars, and I've never seen that sort of